This is episode 179. We are talking about fertility myths. Welcome to Wellness in Every Season, the podcast where we explore the rich tapestry of wellness in all of its forms. I'm your host, Autumn Carter, a certified life coach turned wellness coach, as well as a certified parenting coach dedicated to empowering others to rediscover their identity in their current season of life. My goal is to help you thrive both as an individual and as a parent. I am so excited to have Dr. Amma with me. Her business name is Holistic Fertility Doctor. That sums her up perfectly. I just had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. She is struggling with infertility. I'm very excited for everyone who's listening, but I'm also excited for her because I have a feeling that I'm going to quickly edit this and be sending this to her before it ever goes live. If you ever come into my world, know that I do that. If you get to know me at a more personal level, you will have that bonus if you want to ever work with me or get to know me. Let's start with having people really get an understanding of you are a doctor. What are you a doctor of? Give us your resume of why you should listen to me to start.
So I'm a naturopathic doctor by training, which is a philosophy of mind, body, spirit, do no harm, work with nature, your body heals itself. Doctors are here to support your body in healing itself. So that's the philosophy that I live by. And I've been doing that for 20 years. And then 15 of those years have been specialized in doing fertility support. We work with couples primarily that are struggling with fertility. We do have some solo moms by choice. We have some same-sex couples by choice. If you are in a partnership, we need to be working with the whole of like the family unit that is going to create this child. A lot of people will reach out and say, oh, it's just me. It's my problem. And I'm like, no, it's really not. There's no world in which it's just you. We work with couples, and because I'm a super geek and specialized in fertility for so long, I am also board certified in naturopathic endocrinology, which is a fancy way of saying I love hormones and I love to approach them naturally.
Where does that word come from?
Endocrinology.
Yeah. And
I know that the endocrine system is like our glands and the hormones, and it's essentially the study of glands and hormones and the interconnections between all of them.
that's a great answer for people who don't know. So, are you the same as a doctor who is a DO?
No, not the
No.
same.
I learned about that in my degree, and I'm like, that's the type of doctor that I want to go to. But then I heard about naturopathy, and that's the doctor I want to go to. Put them in the
It's
same category in my brain.
is osteopathic doctors, and most of them are trained conventionally, so they're pretty equal to MDs these days. But there's a very small subsect of DOs that are super amazing and follow the same philosophy as naturopathic medicine. So you'd really have to dig in and find someone who has the right philosophy match. The history of medicine started with naturopathic medicine as the foundation. Most places around the world have naturopathic or natural things like herbs and food and lifestyle as the core of the culture. If you look back at almost any culture, including American culture, we have deep in the roots to use herbs as medicine. What ended up happening was the evolution of medicine and the invention of antibiotics and penicillin really flipped the script. Doctors, MDs, actually used to have as their main therapy bloodletting. That was it. You go to an MD and all they would do is bleed you dry. That was the solution for everything until penicillin. That was the launch and the shift across the world where traditional or conventional medicine has become the primary and all the other medicines are ancillary or supportive. There's the ebb and flow in nature, which is normal. But a lot of what we do as naturopathic medical doctors is in line with what traditions around the world have done for thousands of years. It's not new. What is unique about naturopathic medicine is we want all of these natural things to have proof that's backed by research and science. At least that's my philosophy. I want to know if this herb is really good for XYZ. Like, I want to see the proof and know that it works in that way outside of the 5,000 years of traditional knowledge in old school books. So I try to be a bridge between the natural and the conventional with everything that we do and say is backed by research. All doctors are not paying attention to all of the research that comes out. For me, it's really like I'm up on all the fertility stuff and I want to know about all of the fertility stuff. And so much is misconstrued and misunderstood. It's just a fun little world that we live in.
Yeah. So before we talk, I want to have this resonate for everybody. Everybody can learn. Or you skip to the next episode, listeners, get your finger away from that button. What kind of training have you had? Unspecialized, maybe it's better. Naturopath. What is the difference between them study-wise and a regular med school MD?
Naturopathic medicine is interesting because there's only 4 schools in the country that have medical curriculums, which means it's a 4-year training program with lots of like hands-on shadowing doctors, working alongside doctors. So what medical doctors do in their training as well. And the curriculum, you could almost lay it on top of each other and you'd be like, is there a difference here? It's literally the same, right? The only difference is in the philosophy underneath it. A conventional doctor would go to school and learn about GI for this semester. Then their courses in GI would cover all of the diseases, the symptoms, the signs, and then the treatment would pretty much be medications versus ours, which would be the same. It would be signs, symptoms, diseases. Treatments would include the medications, but also include herbs, supplements, lifestyle, diet that would be specific to that specific condition. So it only varies in that like little bit of extra that we need to learn around natural stuff. And most of our curriculum is guided by conventional medicine. So we still need to know what is Crohn's disease. The naturopathic approach would be like, yes, this is the technical definition of Crohn's, but what are the things underlying it that's potentially creating this illness in somebody? So what is the mind, body, spirit aspect to this? Not just the physiology that gets treated by Remicade, which is the medication you would take if you had Crohn's disease.
Okay. I'm getting this. Hopefully everybody else is getting this a little more. And then from what I understand with naturopathy is it feels like they are looking at the full body system instead of just this part of the body, especially when I was pregnant. Is that related to your fetus or is that related to you? And I would say, wasn't both? That type of idea. And it sounds like they're also more likely to really drill into, okay, these are the symptoms. Let's figure out the why.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think that we are obsessed with what is the root and even the root of the root, which sounds so woo, but
I'm a coach. That's what I do.
yes, we want to find the root of all of the things. And with fertility, what was really interesting to me when I started getting into it was that fertility is a diagnosis that doesn't actually mean anything. So the way that you get the diagnosis of infertile is that you have tried to conceive for a period of 6 months to 12 months, depending on your age, 35 and over 6 months, 35 and under 12 months. And if you have consistently tried to conceive and it didn't happen in that time, you are given this diagnosis of infertility, which to me, it's one of the only conditions that doesn't have any kind of workup to get to that diagnosis. In any other world, you have a heart disease, you need to go through a bunch of tests before you get that diagnosis. Even high cholesterol, you need to have a test to get that diagnosis. So for me, what was weird when I stepped into fertility was, how did we come up with that? Just that you tried and it's not working? Is that the reason to give you a label that is basically saying that you will never have children? That seems extreme to me. Very early on, I realized that I didn't like this idea at all. And what I have discovered in the years that I've been doing this is that infertility or the struggle or difficulty in conceiving is just a symptom of something. Unfortunately, that something is so unique to each couple, and it is so under the radar that most of the time people are healthy and they feel fine and there's nothing really that they can tell you is wrong. Yet their body is like, nope, not doing this thing. And because fertility is so sensitive in our bodies, it's the one part of our body that doesn't actually need to function in order to survive. Everything else that happens in our body is meant for survival, whereas reproduction is like the added bonus.
The different survival,
The
the family tree
it's
survival.
exactly, but it's not a survival for me as a human. A really easy system to turn off if anything else is out of whack in the body. And the body will turn it off as a way to support the survival of myself over the survival of a species. We see that happening all around the world. I was looking at some stats recently. Countries like Italy are down to 1.3 fertility rates, which is basically how many children are people having on average in that country. And the survival of a species is dependent on an average woman having 2.1 children or something.
So
Anytime
I'm
it's
good
below
with my
that.
4.
Yes, you're good. You're helping the survival of the species.
But I went through infertility as well. Welcome. Are you craving moments that nourish both your soul and family amidst the blur of daily tasks? I understand that desire for a life that brings peace, balance, and joy, not just endless to-dos. That's why I created a range of programs at Wellness in Every Season to help you transform daily routines into meaningful experiences. Recently, I've launched a variety of offerings designed for busy, budget-conscious individuals, some free and others starting at just $7. Many can be completed in a few minutes or hours, while others dive deeper into exploring your dreams, desires, and unique strengths. These programs focus on practical self-care, creating equity in your home, and building trust with yourself. Imagine stepping into your day with confidence and ease, feeling supported by a community on a similar path. Whether you're looking to reclaim time, pursue your dream job, or simply find joy in the little moments, there's something here for you. All resources are available on demand at wellnessinEverySeason.com. You can also book private coaching sessions for more personalized support on your journey.
Yeah,
And it was definitely a journey. You can look at families and not realize the struggles that came.
absolutely. There's just so many things that could be happening under the radar that unfortunately a lot of people don't see. And it's getting better, like more women are talking about it, but even when I started working with this 15 years ago, it was so taboo. It was like, oh no, I'm not dealing with fertility issues. No one would talk about it. And they would come, I would do a talk in audiences, and there would be a line out the door for people that wanted to talk one on one. But if I asked a question of, Have you ever struggled with fertility? Have you had weird menstrual cycles? Nobody would raise their hands.
You need one of those
Oh,
clickers for the anonymous polls.
yes, anonymous polls. So it's gotten so much better, right? Like over the last 10 years, there's been a shift where more people are talking about it, more open with their struggles. But I think we're a long ways from it becoming the level of conversation that's needed to match the fertility crisis that we're in most countries.
So a question just came to mind. I knew you were coming on, but your name, and I forgot what we were going to be talking about. I play a sport where I have to be fully there.
Uh-huh.
But it was one of those thoughts that come when everything else is washed away. And I have somebody that I've been working with who has a fibroid.
Mm.
She doesn't want children, but she is bleeding almost all the time. It would be amazing if she could just have things removed more permanently. But because of where she's at, it's not allowed because she's still in childbearing ages. So those kind of laws.
Mm.
But it brings this question to mind, and this is for those that are listening where they might want to still press that button, get your finger away, to skip this, because just because we're not trying to get pregnant right now, let's talk about why this still matters. Even if you're before this or outside of this, because it sounds like this is still a really good gauge of your health from what you're.
Absolutely. I think that when your health is in an optimal state, fertility is turned on. And when your health is suboptimal, infertility is the biggest symptom of it. So we often pass off the need for optimizing our hormones, or young women that have irregular menstrual cycles that are like, just take a birth control pill for it. For me, I am flabbergasted because taking a pill is not fixing the problem. It is not helping regulate your cycles and your periods, even though that's what you're told. And when you get off of that, if and when you decide you want to have children, those hormones will have affected your endocrine system negatively, where it becomes really hard to reestablish the connection and get your menstrual cycles back on track. So essentially, you're worse off than when you started. So for me, I think that hormonal system, or our menstrual cycle as women in particular, we can talk about men separately, but for women, our menstrual cycles are the biggest indicator of our health from month to month. If the cycles are irregular, if you have a fibroid, for example, then your body is literally saying, hey, I'm creating these for a reason. The fibroids have a reason. And almost always it's estrogen is super high, estrogen's not being metabolized properly. There's probably a gut issue, microbiome issue that's causing the lack of processing of that estrogen through her body. Gets recirculated. The body goes, oh, not sure what to do with this. Let's sequester it and grow these random things called fibroids.
And then she's bleeding
And
a ton because her body's trying to also get rid of it.
right. Yeah. Her body's trying to get rid of it. And when you get into that constant bleeding state, you're depleting your iron levels in the body, which then causes more bleeding. Literally, like there's all of this downstream effect. And that fibroid is just a symptom of here's all of this stuff that is going under the radar that maybe you don't know how to pay attention to. And your doctor is just take it out
On birth control
to stop the bleeding.
She's been suffering for months on birth
Yeah.
control. Yeah.
So that is, unfortunately, it's not a fix. There are people who may potentially opt for a hysterectomy. Those fibroids are no longer growing because she doesn't have a uterus. But unfortunately, no one looked at the root cause, which is the estrogen and possibly the gut issues. So it will manifest in other ways. She might end up with breast cysts or breast cancer. I don't know what the consequence is, but somewhere else is going to show up.
Further gut issues.
Yeah. it is not as simple as, hey, I don't need this system, so let's just turn it off. We really have to think about our fertility and our menstrual cycle as a reflection of what's happening in our bodies. The question then becomes, why isn't my body doing what it's supposed to do? And then just to take a pause from the female side, on the male side, we have a massive testosterone crisis in our world. And there's literally like testosterone clinics on every other corner trying to push guys onto testosterone. The problem with exogenous testosterone is it shuts off sperm production. So here are these young men that are not being told, hey, by the way, this might shoot your fertility in the foot and you may never get your partner pregnant because you now have essentially given yourself birth control for a decade, 2 decades by taking testosterone shots. So,
Well, why are they taking testosterone shots?
why are all these young men having low testosterone levels? It makes you wonder, right? Like, men in their 20s and 30s should not need testosterone shots. If you're 70 and taking testosterone shots, have at it all day. But a lot of these clinics are not old men. They are very young men of fertile years. Their bodies are not making testosterone, I believe, for a few main reasons. One is that they're being exposed to so many endocrine disruptors that are shutting off their production of testosterone and sperm. So we see this a lot in 25-year-olds that have low sperm counts, and they're like, what? That's impossible. I'm great. Blah, blah, like the whole macho thing.
How good I look.
Yeah, look at my muscle. It does not matter. Your sperm are extremely low. Your testosterone is extremely low. And it is potentially from all of these things that they're being exposed to. Plastic, phthalates, which are basically perfumes and scents. Show me a guy who doesn't have one of those air freshener things in his car and he's breathing it in all day in his car. All of these things that we're doing in our lifestyle that are contributing to essentially throwing off the connection between the brain and our reproductive system that's saying, shut it down, shut it down. And those things over years will move into low testosterone, low sperm count, motility, morphology, all of those things. So I think the exposure to toxins is probably a big one. The other is the stress. And with men, stress is very interesting because most men are like, oh, I'm not stressed. I'm good. I'm fine. Yeah, but let's do a test and see what your actual levels look like because it's unlikely that you're not stressed, even if you think you don't have any physical stressors, you may still be exposed to things around you that are creating physiological stress that you don't realize as stress. I think we have a men's health crisis in a lot of ways. Testosterone is just a symptom of all the other things happening in our society.
Sounds like we can tell a lot from our hormones.
Yeah, exactly.
And it can be so hard because we get our hormones tested every year as part of our physical. But they always test it versus what is normal instead of what is your normal. And your body has different needs from other people. Can you talk on that? You're the actual authority on this.
So we have, I think what a lot of people get confused with is that there is what's called normal in Western medicine based on the average of a population. That doesn't mean that population healthy. Doesn't mean they were even healthy when they were tested, right? So we get these broad ranges of what's considered normal. Unfortunately, most of the time that normal is very far from what our bodies need optimal for function. So that's where there's this whole field of like functional medicine that has come about with, I don't care what your diagnosis is. I don't care what label you have. I want to know, how is your body functioning in its optimal state. So this is where, like with hormones specifically, we have much narrower ranges of what we consider normal. With sperm, same thing. We have much narrower ranges of what's considered normal because the sperm are a funny conversation, but in the fertility world, it's still a very patriarchal culture where doctors will say, your sperm are fine. They're not going to affect anything. They bring the same results to me. And I'm like, that's never going to get a woman pregnant. And they're like, what? My doctor said it was fine or great sometimes. And I'm like, yeah, this is not great. And the reason that there's such a discrepancy is because what is considered normal for sperm has declined. It continues to go down. And the reference ranges keep changing because now the average male is coming in with lower and lower sperm counts. So we just keep lowering the bar essentially. Oh, that's not normal anymore. Okay, we drop it down a notch. If we keep lowering the bar, then we end up in a situation where the bar is already so low that we're evaluating it against this general population scenario. With fertility, there is a reason why men make millions of sperm and put out millions of sperm in an ejaculate. Most of them are going to die before they even make it anywhere near the egg. So that is our body's natural mechanism for survival of the fittest to be figured out. And when we bypass it or deprioritize it because we say, you're going to go do IVF. You don't need that. That's not a problem anymore. IVF will bypass all the sperm issues or most of the sperm issues, but it's going to show up in other ways. So I see this a lot where women will go through repeated IVF cycles and they're like, oh, they got 15 eggs from me in every cycle. By the time the sperm were exposed, there's 5 embryos that are left. And then those embryos didn't make it to day 3. The problem here looks like the sperm. And they're like, no, but my doctor said it's my egg. It's my age. I'm like, yes, let's put this through the filter of a patriarchal culture, a patriarchal medical society that does not prioritize women's health. And when we put those things together, we're like, oh, it's got to be the women. They're over 35. That's the problem. So we see it all come to a head with fertility because it's the meeting of male and female health. Both partners have to be optimal to that degree where not, oh, let's lower the bar so that you can be considered normal, but let's actually get to where your body can produce millions of sperm in an ejaculate and have great motility and morphology and all of these things, because we want to give the option for at least the partners to get pregnant in a natural environment without the need for IVF. And if they need to do IVF, that's still good, but we're still going to raise the bar for all of these men that we work with.
Cheaper versus not.
Like $20,000 versus free.
So, can you talk for those who are saying, hold on, why are you saying it's not the women? Because I've seen women on their periods and it takes so much to have it be the perfect period, blah, 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 whatever their excuses are. Because we've all been told for so long that it's mostly the female's problems. Give us a little more scientific so that some of these excuses can go away.
Statistically, 51% of fertility issues in a couple are female and 49% are male. And then there's a peer amount of overlap. And I don't know what the overlap is. I think it's 30%. So essentially, same, like 50-50 is the statistical average. And yes, I agree with you. Absolutely, women have hormonal problems and hormonal issues that are driving fertility issues. But what the IVF doctor is saying to them is not about their hormones, it's about their age. So they're saying it's your eggs because you're over 35. Now it's come down to, I've had 29-year-olds being told it's your age. What? You're 29 years old. What does your age have to do with it?
Talk more on age. Like, what is the actual age?
What is the age cutoff?
That's not cutoff, is
Yeah.
it? But
So statistic or like traditionally we have accepted this idea that fertility for women drops off a cliff at 35. For me, it was important to figure out where that came from because I just wanted to know for myself. I was in this place of, do I have children with this man or not? The decision was going to be based on how much time do I have to find someone I actually want to have children with. When I was evaluating it, I was like, I have to know where this came from. And I couldn't find any studies on it. That was a red flag because I told
that's
you in the
kind of
beginning,
like the
I'm very
stand goal
science driven.
and the
Yeah.
walking goal on the
Yeah.
Apple Watch, where it was just arbitrary.
So I couldn't find any studies. And now there exists about 3 very small studies that you can't even rely on. I traced this idea down to 1800s France, where there are churches that have documented that women did not come to get their children baptized after the age of 35. So we adopted this idea that women's fertility is dropping off at 35. So me being who I am, I was like, that doesn't sound right. How long were women alive in the 1800s France? And it turns out that the average life expectancy for women back then was 32.8. So now you have a serious issue because you're telling women your fertility drops off, but it's based on this idea that hasn't been proven. The entire field of fertility lands on this idea that our fertility is done at 35 and we are entering perimenopause at 35, and we can talk about what that means. Now that's like all the buzz in the social media world. It's so frustrating. We have this idea of age driving a major part of our body systems that isn't actually based in anything. What the studies have done, they're very small scale. I will admit that they're not like massive global studies that we can put our hat on, but it's better than nothing. So, what most of these studies have found is that when they compared age groups 25 to 29 versus 35 to 39, they found a 3% fertility decline. The women in the older age group had a 3% lower chance of getting pregnant than the other women. I'll take that any day. I basically looked at that and I was like, I'm good. I'll be fine.
And that's
I'll
probably
take
one
the
of the biggest
3%
things.
chance.
When people come to you, that's probably one of the biggest things they'll start to say is, we know we're older. And you're like, hold on.
Yeah. And the reason that I talk about it so often is this is a really hard thing for people to change their mind about. They are being entrenched in this culture. I feel like I learned that in middle school, high school, medical school, everywhere across the board in women's health. We learned that fertility is just done at 35.
It makes it interesting for the men who are single and want to have kids. Then they go for younger women when maybe they really don't want to. One woman who
Yep.
has it all together, for a family member, it was like that, and he ended up with someone slightly older than him. They still had 2 kids just fine. We're raised
Yeah.
that way.
So for a woman in the early 30s that is with a person that she doesn't necessarily feel super excited about, I could settle down with this person, but if I didn't have a ticking clock, I would probably make a different choice. So when we really think about what are we accepting of, we're going to put ourselves to a different standard, or we're going to put that man we're with to a different standard. He's not the right one. And that's no shade to whoever is in situations where you made that decision. But for me, I think having the right knowledge changes the choices that you would make. And that is absolutely true for me. I was in a marriage that I was like, oops, I think I married the wrong person. I could have children with him or follow my body and my intuition, which was screaming run. The only thing that would have had me have a child with that person would have been, oh, your fertility is actually going to be done in a year. That to me would have been like, okay, maybe I'll just have a kid and then get the divorce. Like that was a very real possibility. And when I learned all of this, I was like, oh, yes, of course. Like I see how age impacts fertility. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely. When you have been menstruating every single month for 20 years, that is going to have an effect on your hormones, on your ovaries, on the reserves that you have in your eggs. But the other piece of that is stuff that you can control, which is how much exposure to toxins, how much are you drinking, how much are you staying up at night? What are the lifestyle choices that you've been making for 20 years that are then impacting your fertility and your ability to get pregnant? So for me, I was like, okay, I'm not only am I going to get divorced, I'm going to wait for the right person, which thank God did happen. And I did end up having a child with him 7 years after that. But the ability to make that choice was dependent on knowing the facts and then making the decision of, oh, I'm going to clean my act up. Like, I'm going to stop allowing myself to live stressed, not sleep, work 80-hour weeks. Like, I'm going to make a massive rehaul on my lifestyle because I want to have children someday with the right person. I think that's the wisest thing we could do is when you realize you actually want to have children, you're not at the age where you can or want to yet, then you're making different choices that are going to support your future fertility. And that might include egg freezing. Egg freezing was brand new. It was very expensive. And I was like, well, you freeze the eggs, but what about the uterus? You're not really freezing the uterus. So if I keep living the way I'm living, it's probably not going to help me that much. And statistically, it was true. Like 1% of the eggs that were being frozen were actually turning into live babies.
Not a good return. Take a quick minute to share with you two things that are going on in the background that I'm very excited to announce. The first one is that if you are interested in experiencing any of these healing modalities that the guests that I'm interviewing or that even I'm speaking on during my solo episodes, I am now offering that chance. And let me show you how to get there. If you go to my website, you go to wellnessandeveryseason.com/listener wellness guest. Here, this is an automation that starts through my newsletter. Here, you are putting in your first name and your email address and 3 different things that you are interested in, and you are welcome to explain a little bit more after that, and then you hit apply. Right now, this is your chance to take something that feels just so out there and it sounds great if you work with that person, and bringing this into, I have needs right now. How can I have them met? This sounds amazing what this person is talking about, but I want to see this actually happen with one of my peers that has something similar. This is your opportunity to have that happen. So wellnessandeveryseason.com/listener wellness guest is how you get here. From here, there are 3 people chosen at random. There's the first guest, and if they say no or their scheduling doesn't work out, it goes to the second guest. Same thing, and then it goes to the third guest. So it's randomized who's chosen. You want this. The second thing that I have to announce is that I'm now offering sponsorships. So this is so people can have ads like this one in my podcast. They can also have ads in my newsletter. And there are very different tiers that you can be in for this. If you know a business that wants this, here's interest form for this, and it's wellnessandeveryseason.com/podcast/podcast sponsor. And you can find this easily on my homepage too, so don't worry about getting that right. And the point of this is so you get deals from aligned wellness branded companies. And so that I can offer sliding scale coaching. We all know people who need coaching so badly, who are so ready to put in the work, but they don't have the finances to go along with it for whatever reason in life. This allows me to offer more coaching to people in that category by having people sponsor. Gets you deals, gets me the opportunity to work with more people who can't afford it. So those are my two things, and I'll let you get back to the show. Love you so much, and happy healing and happy wellness.
Not a good ROI. So I
No.
was like, I'm just gonna roll the dice and do what I know to do, work on myself, work on my stuff, and see what happens. And literally this up being finding the right person. And like he was ready to have children a lot before me. And he would just every time, every month, he'd be like, "You're ovulating. Should we try?" And I'm like, so he was like super in tune with my cycles and knew I was ovulating. He could just tell, quote unquote, which I've now learned that most partners can actually tell.
At least
And he would just be like, is this the one? And I'm like, no. And I said that for months. Finally, the day that I was like, yes, let's try, we got pregnant that day. It is wild to think about because it could have been a very different choice and a very different struggle, given that I had been doing fertility work by that point for a few years. I was expecting to have struggle. I did not expect to get pregnant on the first try. But I also looked back at it and I was like, yeah, I've been doing everything that I tell my people to do, lifestyle wise, for 5 years at that point, and technically doing all the testing and supplements for a year. So I was prepping my body, knowing that very soon I'd be ready. I didn't know when I would feel ready, but I knew that was coming soon. It was good feedback to be like, yeah, this is me walking the talk, doing all the things I tell my patients to do, and knowing that when we let go of all of the expectations and surrender, I was in that place of, sure, let's do it and see if it happens. It worked because of all of the things that had gone into making it happen. Not to say that it had to take 5 years, but that was for me to heal my crap.
tell us that list.
The basics were stress. I literally had gone from working 80-hour weeks, trying to sustain our life with my ex, pay the mortgage, the bills, all of that. I was the breadwinner and a lot of pressure and stress in that. After the divorce, I was like, okay, I still am going to have all the bills because the mortgage was in my name, the bills are in my name. Literally nothing was changing. I was like, I have to change something about how I'm doing life because working 80-hour weeks is not the solution. Like, in no world is that going to keep going. And I had been doing that for 5 or 6 years at that point. So one of the earliest resets was, okay, it's got to come down to 40-hour weeks. I'm going to need to make some changes in my business. I'm going to let go of the things that I was working another job to moonlight so I could pay the bills at this clinic. So I was like, I have to end the stuff that's out of alignment in order to make space for what is going to need to come in. It took some time and I struggled through it and got to the point where I could do 40-hour weeks. And really in that process was rebuilding my adrenals, rebuilding my circadian rhythm. I couldn't sleep, was wired all the time. It was nuts. My hormones were out of whack. So I would have these like extremely painful menstrual cycles. It was the lowest point in my life. So every part of it had to get rebuilt. Adrenals, thyroid, gut health, circadian rhythm, the things that I was doing, like I was taking supplements, eating very simple food, because who's got time to cook when you're doing a million things trying to get your business together? So it was like basic food, stopped eating out, just simplified all of it and prioritized sleep over everything else. So it's like absolutely must go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, sunlight in the morning. So doing the things that we all know to do, eat
Like the
organic,
basic
eat
caveman
vegetable. Yeah.
before electricity stopped.
I was going to bed at like probably 10:30. I've always been a night owl, so sleeping early for me is like 10. I'm not going to bed at 8. Like, this is probably never gonna happen.
Summertime sun schedule.
Yes, and doing better about spending time on the things that absolutely were needed by me. A lot of that was mindset reset around business. As a new business person, I was so stressed out. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? And how do I run a business? People were like, you need an assistant. And I was like, I can't afford an assistant. So it was all of the mindset stuff around business I had a lot of support and coaching with, and that helped me to shift as stressed about money and where the food is going to come from and if I'm going to have a roof over my head. And then I can go into, okay, got to heal the nervous system, the adrenals, and the circadian rhythm. And those, I think those are the foundations for everything. So as those started getting better, the hormones started to improve. And then I probably did a year and a half of just supporting my hormones. And that's like herbs, right? I wasn't doing a whole bunch of stuff at that point. Baseline fertile lifestyle, add in the herbs. And then when I got closer to the fertility time period, I did a really stupid thing, which was it was a lesson that I needed to learn. I was like, oh, I'm not sure I'm getting enough protein as a vegan. So I added in a protein shake. And it was this like really pure protein shake with no sugar added to it. The sweetener was mango. This will become relevant in a second. And then they had a greens powder that I was like, oh yeah, gotta get the greens. I added in some greens. And both of them sweetened with mango. Within probably 4 months of taking those, I would be in pain on the floor every single night. And I was like, what the hell is happening? I had created food sensitivities for myself, the biggest one being mango. And I had to laugh about it because eventually I did the testing and I was like, mango, are you kidding me? I would have never in a million years been like, mango is what's triggering my food sensitivity reactions. My immune system was haywire. My stomach was like churning in knots every single night. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what's happening. So that last year was basically gut health and like taking away. Oh, I had stopped drinking alcohol because that had become a routine with stress. Oh, I need my glass of wine every night. So I had stopped doing that, getting rid of the toxins. I feel like everyone knows these things, but we don't always do the things that we know to do.
I think it's
So,
doing the mental health work to be able to do those things because your alcohol, I'm sure, was a crutch. Some of
yeah.
the foods you were eating, I'm sure, were a crutch.
hmm
Not getting enough
Yeah.
sleep, a crutch.
Yeah. It's like we're doing all of these things to survive in a way that feels like, oh, I need it. I have to do that. And if you just stick to eating wholesome foods that are not processed, get the sugar out, sugar and alcohol, remove the toxins. I'm still super into makeup, but I was really into makeup back then and didn't realize how many toxins were in all of it. The average statistic I found was like 168 toxins is normal for an average woman to apply to her skin before she leaves the house. And I was like, oh,
Hair product. makeup,
Hair. Yep.
skincare,
Yep.
nails. Yeah.
All of the things. That was a massive shift for me. I was like, oh, I gotta shift to all the clean beauty products that aren't going to increase the toxin burden that I have in my body. The foundations are really easy and we could all be doing them. I don't care if you're trying to get pregnant or not. They're going to help everything all the time. Those are the things that I continue to do and practice in my life. Of course, you're going to have times where you fall off and then you're going to be like, okay, got to get back on. Got to reset and keep doing it.
It sounds like this works for both genders as well.
Absolutely. And it's so important. I feel like with men, maybe they don't need as much sleep, but still high quality sleep is super important for men as well. And then good, wholesome food, high nutrition, low calorie or the empty calorie stuff is just not that good. And then getting rid of alcohol and cigarettes
Why
is
marijuana?
helpful. The research on marijuana, especially for men, is that it will cause low sperm motility. So for men that consume marijuana, I'm like, listen, we're going to do your semen analysis. And then we're going to see if there's a motility issue. Marijuana's got to go. Are you serious?
What about
And
energy drinks? Which one's worse? I feel like they're pretty neck and neck there.
which energy drinks?
That's true. Monster I know is really bad. Like the ones that are on that caliber of energy
Yeah.
drink, not
So
the healthy energy drinks. Although I don't think any of them are healthy.
even kombucha is going to affect negatively something in the body. The energy drinks are bad, I think, because of the artificial sweeteners that are in them. And there are lots of studies on the artificial sweeteners affecting male
I
fertility,
thought it was
male
food
sperm.
coloring too.
Probably food coloring also. I haven't looked at them in a long time.
Well,
We should
that
try consuming them.
decades ago.
So
Just think
I
about
think
your heart health with energy drinks to begin with. And heart and your penis go together.
circulating blood flow. The other thing about marijuana, which has come out recently, is that it stimulates cortisol production. So while people are consuming marijuana thinking they're getting the chill out effect, they will be like, oh, but it helps me relax. It helps me sleep. That's great. Except it's a really weird response because while you feel relaxed, your body's actually driving up cortisol production. And a lot of the people that consume when they get off marijuana, they will have sleep dysregulation created by the consumption of marijuana because their body's used to kicking out cortisol when it shouldn't be.
That's so interesting. It reminds me of cigarettes. People smoke to relax, but it doesn't relax the body.
It does not
Interesting.
relax the body.
So let's now switch this to the perimenopause stage.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
we can make it quicker. So let's talk about perimenopause because it sounds like the same things that you're saying probably apply here.
What I was getting at earlier is that when we're living the fertile lifestyle, our hormones are in rhythm. The whole like 10 years of perimenopause before you get into menopause, I think that it will delay the onset of perimenopause. I have noticed that when women continue this after pregnancy, they are going to have lesser symptoms during the perimenopause menopause period. This idea that we're just going to automatically be in perimenopause because we're 35 and oh, your hormones are done and you're off the cliff. It's just not always true. So for me, I'm like, let's test and see where your hormones are. That's a simple solution to knowing if you're in perimenopause or not. And if you are, then we can do some things, especially for fertility, for the people trying to get pregnant. We've seen plenty of people that are perimenopausal and we can get them off the ledge and bring it back online to fertile. But it's not always the case. People 45 and over who have already entered menopause, their hormones are consistent with that, their ovaries don't have a lot of eggs left, that's really hard for us to turn around. At that point, your fertility is actually done. But that perimenopause period is a weird one. I think our culture is getting to the point where they're saying, oh, everyone's going to have these symptoms and you're going to feel like shit and you're going to have brain fog. And to me, I'm like, yes, maybe, but it's going to depend on what you were doing leading up to that period of time where your body's actually, I don't see any hormone fluxes. And for me, I'm 45 and so technically have been in perimenopause for 10 years. But in reality, I've probably been in perimenopause for 1 year, if that. And I'm not having any severe symptoms. I just see some slight changes with my hormones. Menstrual cycles are shifting a little bit, but I'm not freaking out about it. And I have all these symptoms. I'm going to continue living the fertile lifestyle that I've been living for the last 15 years. My goal is no symptoms, get into menopause, and woohoo, we're done.
For people who are listening, especially the men, to call you out, what is perimenopause versus menopause? And then tell us where we can find you after that.
So perimenopause is the supposed like 10-year period of time where your hormones are fluctuating. Often what we will see is a shift in estrogen and progesterone throughout the cycle. Sometimes estrogen goes high and then it'll flatline, or it's shifting from month to month, hopping back and forth. That's the perimenopause time. You still have hormones, but they're acting weird for the men. And then menopause is where your ovaries are no longer producing the hormones that it was during its fertile years. I believe that the deeper level shift that's happening in our bodies is we're going from relying on the infradian rhythm, the cycle of 28 days, our menstrual cycle, into a 24-hour cycle, which is based on testosterone. So when we're in that transition period, it feels very weird and scary and, oh my God, I'm not functioning the same. You're shifting your gears into a very different gear.
It's hard to be in tune with your body.
Yeah, exactly. Like our early years, we were reliant on testosterone and other growth hormones essentially to get up to the menstrual time. And then we start menstruating and our body has shifted into the infradian rhythm. So now we're on a 28-day clock. Now we have to shift back to the 24-hour clock, which is the clock, right? So we're shifting more into this period of time where we're going to have a more consistent energy, more consistent hormone system because it's just one hormone instead of 20. But the downside is if we have relied on our infradian rhythm and relied on these hormones to be the primary driver of everything, instead of a full endocrine system that is reliant on adrenals and thyroid and insulin and all of these underlying hormones that are driving the infradian rhythm, if those are out of whack, it's really hard to shift gears. So for me as a fertility person, I'm looking at all of this stuff that's happening on the World Wide Web that is perimenopause related. If you worked on all of these things when you were in your fertile years, you wouldn't be having these issues right now. Because to get fertility back online, you have to work on the adrenals, the thyroid, the insulin, blood sugar regulation, all of the underlying stuff is what's going to help support your fertility.
Then is it too late for those who haven't and they're now, oh my goodness, I have way too many symptoms?
Yeah, no, not at all. I think
It'll just be easier for these people.
I think it's mostly keep doing what you were doing in your fertile years if you were doing it all. And if you're starting to see symptoms, then go to the foundations first. You don't need fancy hormones. You don't need to be on estrogen and progesterone. Maybe go get tested and see, but you have to have the foundation in place. It's not just as simple as throw some hormones on it and I'll be fine.
Which a lot of they call them wellness centers, the places where you can get Botox and everything else.
It's
hormones. And
It's
they
literally
sometimes
just
they do it
saying,
without testing your
yeah,
hormones.
here's your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, and you're good. It's the same as the T clinics for men. The male version is the testosterone clinics. The female version is the wellness clinics, quote unquote, that are promoting the use of these hormones as the fix for all of your symptoms.
Weight loss.
All
Tell
the
us
things.
where to find you because we could go for hours longer with how much information we actually need versus what we need to just push out of our brain because they're what we've been fed that are wrong. So tell us where to find you so we can gain our own information, go down our own rabbit hole with you.
Instagram is the best way to connect at Holistic Fertility Doctor, and our website is holisticfertilityinstitute.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This was amazing. I need to hurry up and have this ready to go for several people now. I am so excited for when this goes live because I have so many people having this conversation with me when I'm out in the world, having first coaching consultations with people. Sometimes it's one of those, maybe you should get that checked before we work together because it'll help you with your energy levels and everything else. I am all things wellness, but that doesn't mean I do all the things. It means I can refer out too. I am glad that I have you as a resource and this amazing episode. And for all of you who are listening, we all know somebody who struggles with this, male or female. So please share this so that we can fix a lot of the misinformation. I really hate when people just take away, like, no, all this stuff is false for you, and then they don't give you something good. We've given you good things, and you have this amazing resource of checking her out on Instagram and her website. So please do that. And thank you again for being
Awesome.
on.
Thank you, Adam.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. I am your host, Autumn Carter, a certified life coach dedicated to empowering individuals to rediscover their identity, find balance amidst chaos, strengthen relationships, and pursue their dreams. My goal is to help people thrive in every aspect of their lives. I hope today's discussion inspired you and offered valuable insights. Stay engaged with our wellness community by signing up for my newsletter at wellnessinEverySeason.com/free resources. When you join, you'll have the option to receive a 5-day guide called Awaken and Unwind. 5 days to mastering your mornings and evenings, along with free guides, special offers on my programs, practical tips, personal stories, and much more, all related to wellness, by signing up for both offers on the page. Don't miss out on these valuable resources designed to help you thrive in every area of wellness. Join today and start your journey to wellness in every season. Your shares, subscriptions, and reviews help us reach more people seeking empowerment. So please spread the word about our podcast and about our newsletter. Thank you for being a part of our podcast community. I look forward to continuing our conversation, sharing stories, and exploring wellness in all of its aspects. Take care until our next episode. You can also work with me one-on-one or on demand through one of my programs by visiting wellnessinEverySeason.com/programs. One last thing to cover the show legally. I am a certified life coach giving general advice. So think of this more as a self-help book. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I am not a licensed therapist, so this podcast shouldn't be taken as a replacement for professional guidance from a doctor or therapist. If you want personal one-on-one coaching from a certified life and parenting coach, go to my website, wellnessinEverySeason.com. That's where you can get personalized coaching from me for you. See you in next week's episode.